Update on the outrageous pricing for Wegovy pricing and ZEPBOUND pricing. Hi friends, I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping, and on today's episode, I'm going to go through some breaking news or a recent news story for you talking about pricing of GLP-1 medications. If we have just met, I'm Elizabeth, Countess of Shopping. I have had the privilege of being on GLP-1 medication the last 16 months, losing over 88 pounds, woo, on my 100-pound weight loss journey. I'm really excited on today's episode to dive more into talking about pricing for these pens, the gold, the liquid gold of GLP-1 medication, and some solutions too for what's happening in terms of pricing. So let's go ahead and dive in. There was a recent article about Novo Nordisk. They're the makers of Wegovy and Ozempic. I'm holding up the pen for Eli Lilly, the maker of ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro, but I'm kind of pooling this all together for GLP-1s in general because of the high, outrageous pricing for these medications. And Novo Nordisk faces scrutiny over high prices of Ozempic and Wegovy, blames the U.S. health system. It's interesting to me that Novo Nordisk is taking these hits, whereas the Eli Lilly is under the same umbrella, is not getting hit this hard in the media as these reports are coming out. And they started back with here at Countess of Shopping, by the way, we're not going to talk politics. I refuse. I will delete those comments if they're politically based. But overall, talking about Bernie Sanders, who is the leader amongst this charge about the pricing of Wegovy and Ozempic, Novo Nordisk, because of the Senate and a recent letter to Senator Bernie Sanders, the European drug maker, and now, just to be clear for all the facts, Wegovy and Ozempic are made by European drug maker. Eli Lilly is a US-based company, FYI. Throwing that out there and shutting the door on that information, but the European drug maker is expressed willingness to collaborate with lawmakers to tackle the systematic issues hindering patients' access to medication, right? Meaning pricing. These drugs are life-saving. These drugs are life-changing. We're seeing studies about how it's reducing by 20% cardiovascular events for heart disease, strokes, and also now with kidney failure or kidney functions, that's other testing that's happening, liver functions. There's a lot going on. There's even clinical trials going on now for Parkinson's disease. I mean, it is a great time to be alive, friends, but these medications are incredibly expensive. And in terms of the Wegovy price, that is ranging, and we're going to get into the specific nitty-gritty of this. Earlier this year, a study revealed that Ozempic, and we've talked about this before, can be produced for as less as $5 per month, starkly contrasting its current monthly price of $968.52. That's Ozempic. ZEPBOUND and Mounjaro are anywhere vacillating between $1,000 up to upward high, almost $2,000 per month supply of the GLP-1 medication. So we're seeing anywhere from that $968.52 all the way up to as high as almost $2,000 in the US, whereas our other countries are not paying those prices. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to keep going with the facts, and then I'll go into some of my analysis of this as a business person. Novo Nordisk has disclosed it retains approximately 60% of the list price of its diabetes and obesity medication, Ozempic and Wegovy, in the US. And I will cite in the ... more, I will cite all of my sources as well for everything that I'm going to be discussing. Just click that ... more, and you can see everything where specific. You read what I'm talking about too, if you want to know my source. Some of you are like, I don't care, I trust you, but some of you are like, I want to see the fine print, so it will be down below. After it's saying it retains 60% of the list price of diabetes medication in the US after accounting for rebates and fees paid to intermediaries. The revelation comes amidst intensifying scrutiny over these blockbuster drugs. Now, going back to that price point, I'm throwing this out there about how earlier this year, the study revealed Ozempic could be produced for less than $5 a month. We know, for example, I'm going to use a plumber. A plumber's charging me, I'm just going to throw this out there, a higher hourly rate. We had a plumber come on emergency, and he charged, it was, I want to say it was in like $100, maybe it was more than that per hour. I was not paying the plumber to come for the hour. I was paying the plumber to come for all of the previous knowledge and his training prior to arriving at my house. And somewhat similar to these GLP-1 drugs is that I'm not paying for the specific drug to be made. I'm paying for the specific research that it took to get to the point of all of the scientists and all of the studies and getting through the FDA clinical trial approvals and getting through the legal hurdles and getting through the manufacturing hurdles and all of that to get to this point. Much like the plumber who had to be trained to get to my house to be able to help fix our plumbing problem, same thing with the GLP-1 medication. Of all of what's before that, yes, it could cost as little as $5 a month versus what they're charging, but all of the previous costs and the risk associated with that. What if it didn't do all these things? I mean, there have been a ton of GLP-1 failures. You can go to the clinical trial studies, which I've linked in other videos before. There's a lot of clinical trials going on right now for GLP-1 medications. And several of them, many of them, are also, I shouldn't say many, I should say some get pulled out of the clinical trials because they simply just don't work. What happens to the financing of those clinical trials? The company has to eat it. Novo Nordisk, Eli Lilly, and any other pharmaceutical company has to eat those. And so I think that there is this great debate, but I did want to give another side to that story also of, and we're going to keep going into the story because I think it's important talking about, like, is it price gouging? Is it, I mean, there's a lot to the story. Novo Nordisk defended its, similarly, Wegovy is priced at $1,349.02. Don't forget that 2 cents per month. Its pricing discrepancy has prompted the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, chaired by Bernie Sanders, to investigate Novo Nordisk pricing strategies. Again, it's interesting that Eli Lilly is not in this. I only see it's Novo Nordisk, the European company, not the US-based company. Novo Nordisk defended its pricing, noting the substantial investment, oh, this is what I was saying, the substantial investment required for drug development. The company stated it spent over $10 billion to develop GLP-1 medications. Imagine if it hadn't worked. Imagine if that $10 billion hadn't worked. And you guys know my level of gratitude. I am so grateful to be alive. I've referenced my grandmother previously with having chronic obesity management, she had obesity, but didn't have chronic obesity management treatment like we do. And it's a great time to be alive. And so the company's spending over $10 billion to get to this point and to develop GLP-1 medications. And the development process often spans over a decade. Investing a decade of a business with no guaranteed of a return, financially putting that money up with no guarantee of a return. Yeah, I do think that there should be a higher price point on that. Should it be the price that it is now? Let's keep going. With such pricing gaps and boosted supply, the potential market for GLP-1 drugs could reach $150 billion by early 2030s as their applications extend beyond obesity and diabetes, which we've talked about. Let's see here. Ozempic generated around $18 billion in sales this year. Wegovy is expected to bring close to $9 billion. Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't know that. So Ozempic is going to bring in it for 2024, $18 billion, Wegovy $9 billion, predominantly from the US market, where approximately 40% of adults are obese in the US. Reuters noted that the potential market for GLP-1 drugs could reach $150 billion. That's the source for that. Global spending on obesity medications was $24 billion last year, according to IQVIA, and their latest 5-year outlook predicts that the spending could soar to $131 billion by 2028. Annual growth rate of 27%. We've been talking stocks previously too. I'm an investor's daughter, so I do also love talking stocks. Now I'm going to bounce over to the Reuters source on this as well because it has slightly different variation. I want to make sure I go through. Bernie Sanders is leading this charge, and so Novo Nordisk is saying that its middleman is the issue with this. I'm going to go to my third source. Hold please while I pull this up. Bernie Sanders, there's the fees paid to intermediaries is what Novo Nordisk is claiming part of these higher pricing on there. And it's going through a study presented at the Digestive Disease Week meeting in Washington found that 95% likelihood of patients with this genetic profile will be responders to the treatment for Wegovy or semaglutide. So going through, okay, so it's, hold on one second. I wanted to reference, that was weird. I wanted to reference this other pricing component of that, but it's not pulling up efficiently. The whole point of the story and the whole thing that I want to talk about, because the stories are not, Eli Lilly is not taking a hit the way Novo Nordisk, which I find fascinating on this. You guys know I stand with Eli Lilly. I'm obsessed with them. I love them. Call me Eli Lilly. I love Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND. But I have had, because of, I was on the Mounjaro because of the Mounjaro shortage, over to ZEPBOUND because of the ZEPBOUND shortage, over to Compound now. And I'm with Join Fridays. I'm obsessed with them. If you're looking for a telehealth company that prescribes chronic obesity management treatment, in my humble opinion, they are the leader and the experts in the GLP-1 space for chronic obesity management. Wegovy, ZEPBOUND, they're amazing. But in addition to brand names, I've pivoted because they have this amazing service of where you can also get compounds through their compound pharmacy. So normally I'd get my prescription for brand name and I'd from Join Fridays. And then I would go over to my local pharmacy to fill that prescription. Because I haven't been able to fill my ZEPBOUND prescription, that's why I went the compound route. My heart's desire is to stay on brand names. But because Join Fridays works with reputable nationwide compound pharmacies, my compound pharmacy is Red Rock. I've been very happy with them. So Join Fridays prescribes my medication. I get the actual compound from Red Rock Pharmacy, to be clear. Some people are very confused on that. I'm like, no, Join Fridays is my prescriber, that's my healthcare provider, and has been for months and months and months and months. You can use the discount code QUEEN, QUEEN, if you want to switch over to telehealth. I love you pay a monthly fee and then you pay for your medication on top of that. But they do have an insurance concierge to help if you have coverage or to help you get PA, a prior authorization through your insurance. I don't go that route, but they do have those services. It's that insurance concierge is included in your membership price. And they have in the membership price, and the thing that I think is not talked about enough is their resources that are included in your membership. I used to pay hundreds of dollars a month for a GLP-1 dietitian. I now, through Join Fridays, can get weekly group coaching calls with their dietitian. It's GLP-1 dietitian. It's amazing. That alone is cost savings for me. I mean, that right there. But they also have other weekly encouragement calls too for mental health and body movement and all like really cool stuff. And their new portal is going to be opening up here very soon. But use that discount code QUEEN, QUEEN. That has been helpful for me amongst the Mounjaro shortage, amongst the ZEPBOUND shortage. And for Wegovy, I would switch to Wegovy, but that is also under shortage too. I use tirzepatide compound, but they do also offer semaglutide compounds. Semaglutide meaning Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide meaning Mounjaro and ZEPBOUND, to be clear. And their pricing, people are like, what's their pricing? I'm like, you can go down in the ... more, click that button. Pricing varies depending on your compound dosage, but using that QUEEN, QUEEN will get you a 25% discount your first month off of your membership. And then if you choose to get brand names, of course, you can work that through your insurance or self-pay. And then compounds, I just self-pay for that. I don't know, people have asked me if my insurance covers compounds. I don't know. My insurance is wacky. I don't mess with them. I self-pay personally for compounds, but I think some people have said that they do, but I don't have, I only want to give you my experience, strength, and hope, and I don't have that. So I hopefully that this information is helpful for me. It's been fascinating. This pricing situation is fascinating for me. And I know many of you guys are going to counter too. Of course, I feel like this drug should be accessible to everybody. Of course, it's a life-changing, life-saving. For me, I've said it saved my life, truly. So much so now that I've changed my retirement plan. My husband and I are actively working to switch around our retirement investment strategy to help to combat that I'm going to live longer. I didn't anticipate living another probably 20, 30 years. So now I'm like, okay, we need to have money for that. Like, I'm going to live long. I just thought I was going to die early. And now I don't believe that. I believe GLP-1 medications I'll be on for the rest of my life pending the information I have now. And I'm going to live longer. So with that information, we do need to have accessible drugs, but also we are at the very genesis of GLP-1 medication. Yes, they have come out back in like 2015 was the first GLP-1 medication, but it's not these like, if you think of Avengers, like the super soldiers, they're not the super soldiers that Wegovy, Ozempic, Mounjaro, ZEPBOUND are. And wait till we get to retatrutide. I mean, that's 2 to 3 years out from getting to the marketplace, but like we are at the very genesis of like the revolution of what's happening. Someone had made this analogy and I thought it was brilliant. And I wish I could, I don't know who said this. I wish I could give credit. I always want to cite my sources. but they said this was like how when penicillin came to pass, of how many lives got saved because of penicillin. Same thing with GLP-1 medication. I mean, revolutionary. And so therefore, for business, because we do live in a capitalist society, thank God we're not in a communist society. My family, my husband is 100% Ukrainian. And so I bless that we don't live in a communist society, that we do live in a capitalist society. And so therefore, there is these prices, but I do believe that it's going to level out. And I always want to give encouragement that pricing is going to work, but we're at the very beginning of this. And of course, it's going to be higher at the very beginning. It will. And things also, as I've said before, eventually will also be generic drugs. I was laughing, was on an airplane going to one of I'm an executive producer for like my job. I was going to one of my clients to go film with them. And in the magazine, they had different, like acne, different medication. I used to take that when I was a teenager, and now you can buy it like over the counter. And I was laughing because that's what I used to use for my pimples back in the day, and it was a prescription, and now it's generic. So like, I'm now in my 40s, and so my teenage years were a long time ago, but still nonetheless, like there's hope and encouragement, not saying they'll have to wait decades for that, but like eventually these drugs will be generic, right? And eventually also, and I know so many people are so angry with their insurance companies for dropping these drugs. Example, North Carolina state government dropped all GLP-1 medications, and people who had been on these drugs were like, what am I gonna do? Well, for me, the compound has been a saving grace right now. Because of the compound, I'm able to continue on these drugs, but also for people who don't have insurance coverage, it's less expensive than paying for the brand names. So I always like to say, don't panic, right? Just take a deep breath. I know that this can get riled up over cost, pricing, and I very much do acknowledge the privilege in which it is to afford these medications. 100%, 100%. And that we financially have restructured. And I said that 16 months ago when I first started making over 250 videos now. It's a lot of videos. Back at the beginning of my GLP-1 journey, when I first started this journey, that we restructured our finances to be able to self-pay and to afford these. And I know that that is also a luxury that some people are not able to do. And I recognize the privilege in saying that, like 100%. But I do think, but also the caveat to that too is people are like, you're gonna have 5 heads, like 16 months ago. And now that I don't have 5 heads and I've lost 88 pounds and my blood panels are fantastic and I'm in the best shape that I'm in better shape now in my 40s than I was in my 20s and 30s. And all of the other benefits that have come from taking a GLP-1 medication. I got a lot of flack for taking GLP-1s back 16, 17 months ago, even from family. And now it's interesting to see how people come around like, oh, I'm like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Now having been on like the Oprah show, Good Morning America, and like these amazing and our fabulous community here, and thousands of people. By the way, if you are looking for a free community, you can go to Countess of Shopping, my group. There's thousands of people, but only join if you're nice. If you're a pain in the butt, don't join my group. Go to some of those other people's groups, not mine. But if you've been on hold for that group, the past couple of days, I have been traveling for my work. And so I haven't approved people in the groups. If it's been longer than like 3 or 4 days, shoot me an email. It probably means you got flagged as spam. If your account's less than 5 years on Facebook, that's a flag for spam. And then also if you didn't answer all the questions, a lot of people don't answer all the questions. You're not gonna get in. We've got velvet ropes like the club. We're up into club like 50 cents, and you don't get into the club until you answer all the questions. Taking it back to my 21st birthday. Okay, sweet friends. That was a 50 Cent reference for you oldies but goodies out there. Sweet friends, that is our pricing information for today. 2 things. 1, your accountability questions. What are you doing today to move you closer to your goals? Tell me down below in the comments. Number 2, our emoji today is going to be a microscope. A microscope, it tells me that you've made it this far in the video. That's twofold. 1, I want to get to know you better because I care. And 2, I would love to pray over you. If you don't believe in prayer, I would love to uplift you in positive thought. And that signals if you've made it this far in the video, it probably means you like my content. And if you like my content, I would like to get to know you better too, because I truly do care. So sweet friends, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'm Countess of Shopping. Count my blessings because life is delicious. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys.